Imagine being born with a sharp brain, an elephant's memory, and the intelligence of a scientist, and still being treated as a symbol of bad luck. In general, the crow is associated with misfortune, often seen in cemeteries or believed to bring dark omens. It's linked to witchcraft, horror movies, and Halloween. It is hunted, ignored, and feared just for existing. And this happens every single day to one of the most brilliant animals in nature, a genius with black wings, a piercing gaze, and a brain that can recognize you even years after seeing you only once. You think humans are the peak of intelligence? Then maybe you haven't met the crow. Being born a crow might seem, at first glance, like something ordinary. A bird like any other, black with shiny feathers, a deep and strange call, and a presence that many find eerie. But anyone who's ever truly watched a crow knows it's not just another bird. In truth, being born a crow is like being born with a superpower, but a superpower that almost no one respects. While most animals go through life on autopilot, hunting, eating, running, sleeping, the crow lives in a different world. It thinks, it analyzes, it watches everything, and it understands more than you'd expect. And maybe that's exactly why being a crow, in this loud and distracted world, feels like a lonely experience. Because the crow doesn't just live, it perceives. The mind of a crow is like that of a silent engineer. There have been studies where it understands how a tool works just by watching. If it sees someone using a stick to reach food, it gets the logic, mimics the movement, and does the same. But it doesn't just copy, it improves the method. There was a crow that figured out if it dropped a pebble into a jar of water, the water level would rise and bring the food within reach. And it didn't do this once. It repeated the experiment, testing stones of different sizes, watching the effect of each one with the patience of a scientist. Some were too light, others didn't sink well. But it kept trying. It failed, corrected, and tried again until it found the perfect one. That's not luck. That's logic, applied reasoning, critical thinking. And honestly, there are many adults who couldn't even come close to this level of analysis. But the crow goes beyond intellect. It's aware. It notices. It memorizes. It remembers your face. If you were kind, it knows. If you were cruel, it knows that too. And it doesn't keep that to itself. It shares. Other crows learn from its experience. It's as if they have their own communication system, an invisible network connecting every member of the flock. And this isn't theory, it's fact. One well-known experiment proved this clearly. Scientists used human masks to scare crows near their nests. Years passed. And even after all that time, even with crows that had never seen those masks before, the reaction was the same. Fear, alertness, avoidance. The information had been passed down, from one to another. A collective, silent, precise knowledge. Something not even humans always manage. And even so, despite all of that, the crow still carries the weight of a bad reputation. And that bad reputation has nothing to do with what it is, but with where it shows up. Crows are seen in cemeteries, on roads with dead animals, in battlefields, in places where death has passed. Not because they bring death, they only arrive afterward. Because, like any intelligent animal, they take advantage of what the world leaves behind. But instead of seeing this as a skill, people chose to view it as a curse. They said the crow was a sign of bad luck, a dark omen, a messenger of tragedy. It became a character in horror stories, a symbol of witchcraft, the witch's spy. And that label stuck to it like paint. What the crow really brings is perception. It sees what others don't. It arrives earlier, notices more, understands better. And that scares people, because humans have always feared what is too intelligent, what doesn't obey, what lives outside the norm. And in the meantime, the crow keeps being underestimated. People who see it as just that dark bird have no idea that this is an animal that collects shiny objects, builds tools, hides food with strategy, and more than that, pretends to hide it in one spot just to fool whoever's watching. That's not just intelligence, that's cunning. It's theatre, it's information security, and there's more. Crows grieve. When one dies, the others don't just glance and move on. They stop. They stand in silence. They watch. They make low sounds, almost like a collective murmur. And it's not uncommon to see the whole group return to that spot in the following days, as if saying, "We remember." That emotional connection between them isn't symbolic, it's real, and incredibly rare. Few animals show it so clearly, but no one talks about it. Maybe because the crow doesn't fit into the mold of what we call a charismatic animal. It's dark, its call isn't beautiful, its presence is too intense to go unnoticed. And yet, nobody wants to look at it for too long. Maybe out of fear, maybe out of prejudice, maybe because the crow doesn't play the role people expect from it. It doesn't sing to please, it doesn't dance to entertain, it simply exists and watches the world and everything happening in it. But it also plays, because the crow, despite all its logic, has lightness too. Have you ever seen crows tossing bottle caps into the air just to catch them again? Or sliding down snowy rooftops, climbing back up and sliding again like they'd discovered a secret amusement park? Have you ever seen crows teasing dogs just to see the reaction? They land nearby, peck around, wait for the dog to charge, and then fly away, laughing inside like they're saying, "Nice try." They don't do it because they need to. They do it because they enjoy it, because they take pleasure in interacting with the world, testing it, experimenting. And that bothers people, because the crow isn't predictable. It doesn't follow a script. It can't be tamed. It does things its own way. It thinks on its own. And it lives on the edges of what we understand. And in that space between what is and what seems, it carries a heavy burden. Being more intelligent than most living beings around it, but not being able to say anything. Being ignored, mocked, or feared just for being different. But sometimes someone notices. There have been people who fed crows for days, asking for nothing in return. And one day, without warning, the crow came back with a gift: a shiny bottle cap, an old screw, a worn button, small things maybe useless to us, but filled with meaning. Because that was a symbol of recognition, a gesture, a quiet, "I know what you did." They don't speak, but they show, and that should be enough. But no one wants to listen. No one wants to give them space. No one makes a cartoon with a crow as the hero. It remains the creature of scary movies, the sign of the coming storm. And that is a shame, because the crow might just be one of the greatest mirrors of who we are and what we don't want to see. It shows that intelligence doesn't always come in expected forms, that deep feelings don't require speech, and that when brilliance is born in the wrong body, in an unprepared world, it becomes loneliness. That's why it's a shame to be born a crow, because the world still hasn't learned how to deal with those who think too much, with those who feel too deeply, with those who watch in silence, but understand everything. And the crow still doesn't give up. It goes on, it flies, it remembers, it learns, and it watches everything from above, with a head full of ideas and a chest full of silence.